Okay, so I've done a couple of videos where I've talked about my smartest and dumbest purchases while I was in my 20s and dumbest purchases that Kyle and I have made since marriage. But got a few years on me now in my 30s, and I wanted to talk about the 6 smartest purchases I've made in my 30s so far. Hey, what's up, guys? It's Justine with Debt Free Millennials, the channel to help you crush your debt and live payment free. If you are in your 30s, give me a thumbs up on this video. Let's talk about our smartest purchases we've made. And I will be 33 this year, so I figured there's some things that I've spent money on that I feel were extremely smart. And the first thing was getting a nanny. Now, I'm only on day 2 of having a nanny, but I kid you not, this is like the best thing ever because I'm sitting here creating this video in my home alone while she is out taking care of my baby and having a wonderful time at the park. So I feel like this is going to be a super smart purchase for me for the next year or two, whatever it may be. And I'm so thankful. I wish I would have done this sooner. So my daughter is about 4 months old now, and we will be hiring a full-time nanny-ish, having her come 3 days a week, and doing kind of a nanny split with another family for the other 2 days a week. And we're paying about $17 to $20 an hour here in San Diego. I think it's money well worth it, well spent. I'm so glad, like the weight that I feel of just like, I can focus on creating now. This is awesome. Okay, the second smartest purchase I made in my 30s which was also a smart purchase I made in my 20s, was therapy. So I pay about $125 per therapy session, and I still see my therapist regularly. I was seeing her about once a month for the past year during the pandemic, but since having my baby and really working on postpartum anxiety and really trying to overcome that, I've increased the amount of time that I've spent at therapy. So therapy was definitely a very smart purchase that I made in my 30s. I feel like it just keeps me grounded and keeps things in perspective as I'm going through different life changes and different seasons. The third smart purchase that I've made in my 30s was my husband and I went on a big Euro trip in 2019. This was literally right before the pandemic hit. And we went to Manchester, England. We went to Amsterdam, Paris, and then we ended our trip in Vienna, Austria. I did a whole video on our Euro trip documenting what it looked like, so be sure to check that out. So we actually piggybacked on my husband's work trip, so he went there for a conference. So we got a lot of the trip paid for. So in total, I kept track of everything on a spreadsheet. In total, without using credit card points, without using any type of stipend or per diem that we received from Kyle's employer, it was $9,000. But we ended up paying $2,600 out of pocket because I cashed in a bunch of credit card points that we had racked up, and we also were able to take advantage of Kyle's employer paying for his portion of the flight out there, his hotel, his per diem for food, meals, and expenses. It was so much fun. Money definitely well spent. I just absolutely loved my time there. Paris has always been on my bucket list. I studied French in college, so it was my first time in Paris, and I absolutely loved the trip. The fourth smart purchase that I made in my 30s are SEP contributions. So I have a SEP IRA, which is a simplified employee pension plan. It's an IRA for self-employed individuals, and I opened one with Vanguard and started contributing monthly towards that retirement plan for myself because I don't have a 401k with a traditional employer, so I knew I needed to do something for my retirement. So the contribution amounts are really based upon how much money you bring in, but there's also some flexibility with this type of plan because you can make contributions as the employer and then also as the employee, and so you have a little bit more flexibility in how much you can contribute. So I'm doing $1,000 per month, or it's based off of 20% of your total revenue for that year. The fifth smart purchase, and I don't know if this is a smart purchase I consider it a smart purchase, is giving birth inside of a birthing center in a hospital with a midwife. Initially, I was with a traditional obstetrician, and then as luck would have it, when I was 35 weeks pregnant, she was not renewing her contract with the hospital that I was going to give birth at, and so I had to make some decisions. Luckily, my hospital also has a birthing center, and I had been thinking about moving care with a midwife, but I just didn't know how to go about it, and I really liked my doctor at the time, but things ended up shifting and I gave birth inside of the birthing center. It was an incredible experience. If you haven't checked out my positive birth story, I will link to that in the description box below. But I just felt like the care that I received was so incredible. I felt like they were really listening to my needs, let me move the way that I wanted to move. I gave birth standing up, which is like really crazy, but it just happened that way. And I just loved the experience. And also that the care and the attention that my daughter received after birth was really, really incredible. I had a lot of pediatricians come in, lactation consultants, and then also they were the ones to tell me that something didn't sound right with her hips and that we should get that checked out. And they were the ones who ultimately pointed us over to a children's specialist, an orthopedic specialist, who did confirm that she has hip dysplasia, and so we've been working on correcting her hip dysplasia using a Pavlik harness. The total that I spent out of pocket was $5,800, which is a lot of money. I'm on a high deductible health plan with a health savings account, so we use the money in my health savings account to pay for this birth. It's a lot of money, I know, but I still feel like I made the best decision in that moment to give birth in the birthing center inside of the hospital. All right, the sixth smartest purchase. I know a lot of this has to deal with like birth and my daughter, but this is a season that I'm in and I feel like this is a smart purchase. So I opened a 529 plan for our daughter. At the time, I opened this account when I was 30 and we were thinking about having kids, but we were not like actively trying to make things happen. It was just my type A personality coming into play, being a little bit controlling, I know. But I said, hey, if kids are in our future, let's go ahead and get the 529 plan rolling. We'll just open it under Kyle's name, let it snowball, and then once we have our first child, we'll just change the beneficiary name. So you can actually do that. You can open a 529 plan under your name. Once you have a child, you can switch it to their name as the beneficiary. So we did this when I was 30. I opened a 529 plan with a $3,000 minimum investment to do it with Vanguard. Now there are state-specific 529 plans. I'll actually link to a college investor blog post that has a whole guide to 529 plans and state-specific plans that you'll want to check out, because some states actually have tax deductions that you can take with your state. That's not the case for California, so I did it with Vanguard, and now that account has ballooned to $4,800. We have not contributed anything other than that $3,000 initial investment, so that account has earned over 15% in our rate of return. So I'm pretty stoked about that. I'm really glad we made that decision, because we all know college is going to get continually more and more expensive. And also, if your kid doesn't end up going to college, you can use the money for trade school. You can actually use the money for K through 12 expenses. So these are things that we are going to look into when the time comes for Quinn to start school. So those were the 6 smartest purchases I made in my 30s. What's one smart purchase you've made in your 30s, if you're in your 30s, or just in the past year? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll catch you in the next video.